guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Debbie and I love sharing tips on how to save time and money. So if you like these kinds of videos, don't forget to click subscribe and the bell so that you're notified every time I post, which is Saturday mornings at 11. So today I want to talk to you about groceries and how to stretch the life out of them so that you save money. Because nothing is more frustrating than grocery shopping, putting everything away, thinking you did everything right, and then when you go to reach for that container of berries or lettuce, it's gone bad and you end up throwing it in the garbage, which you might as well just take money and throw it out the window. And it's sad to say that over 20% of groceries that people buy end up in the garbage. So today I want to share with you my top 10 grocery items that if you know how to store them properly, they can last for weeks in the refrigerator. Let me show you how I'm able to keep lettuce fresh, just like the day you brought it home from the supermarket, for up to 2 weeks. So you bring it home from the supermarket and it's in this wrapping. The last thing you want to do is to leave it in that wrapping in the fridge. Let me show you how I use this Tupperware to make it last 2 weeks. So I took the lettuce when I came home and gave it a really good rinse and chop. And then I dried it as much as I possibly could and I put it in this airtight sealed container in the fridge. Now what I've done is I've taken 2 paper towels, and look how green that is. And that's been in the fridge for 4 days already. And it's still just as crispy as it was when I brought it home. So I take 2 paper towels and I line it on the top. And then I take whatever lettuce I need for any salad that I'm making. And I use that. And then before I put it back in the fridge, I replace this with a brand new dry paper towel. But in between, I don't know if I can show you like this. In between, I've layered it again. So there's the one on the bottom, then there's lettuce, then there's one in the middle, and then there's lettuce again, and then there's this topper. So that way you're taking out the moisture, and I wish you guys could feel this. It's completely damp. But you're taking out the moisture that the lettuce releases, and then it stays crispy for up to 2 weeks. And as soon as I use it and I get to the next layer, I replace that layer on the top. I don't have to go to the one all the way on the bottom. I'm just replacing the paper towel that's nearest the lettuce. And then next thing you know, you're done. So next, let's talk about bananas. Now, you bring them home from the supermarket and they're nice and yellow, and within a few days they start turning brown and they have those spots on them, and then you end up doing what? Putting them in the freezer to make banana bread. Or what I like to do is to chop them up and put them on a cutting board and put the cutting board in my freezer. And I know I've mentioned this before in previous videos, but I make ice cream out of them. And I'm gonna share that soon because I've had a few of you guys request that. But how do you actually eat the bananas when you bring them home from the supermarket and you put them out on your counter? Well, let me show you. Now, when it comes to bananas or other fruits, ethylene gas is your enemy. And ethylene gas, as far as bananas are concerned, they get released from the stem right here. So whether you have them in a bunch or you have them all separated, the same thing will happen. So now that my bananas are yellow, because when I brought them home from the supermarket, they were still green, so I didn't want to do this trick. But now that they're yellow and they're ready to go, now I'm gonna do it. And it's pretty simple. All you need is some aluminum foil. So you take some aluminum foil and you simply just wrap the stem of the bananas. And you can leave them like this on your counter and you will see that the bananas will last so much longer and not go brown for at least a few weeks. But honestly, they don't last a few weeks in my house because in like 4 days, these will all be gone. Now, the next item on my list that's a little bit highly contested. Some people think you should bring them home and you should wash them right away and put them away so that they're ready to go whenever you want them. But actually, it's the opposite that makes them last longer. What am I talking about? Any kind of berries. Now, have you ever been at the supermarket or bought any berries home and you see that little mat that's at the bottom of the container? Have you ever thought, what is that? Like, let me get them out of there before that little mat makes them go moldy. Well, it's actually the opposite. Just like with the bananas, any kind of berry also releases ethylene gas. Now in this case, this container does not have that mat, but most of them do. And what that mat does is it collects the ethylene gas, which makes the berries last longer in your fridge. So if you have that mat, leave them alone. Don't wash them, don't do anything. When you come home from the supermarket, immediately put them in your fridge. But mine does not have that mat, so I'm gonna show you what else you can do. I just took any kind of Tupperware is fine. I like the glass ones. And you just line it up with any kind of paper towel, and then you simply take them out of the container and you pour them in. And then when you do that, you always want to look through them just to make sure there's not one that's already moldy in there, because if there is, then that'll help spoil the rest of them. But these are fresh. So all I do is put a lid on it. I'm gonna put this Tupperware into the fridge, and then when we're ready to eat them, that's when you wash them. So now let's talk about one of my favorites, avocados. I was really surprised that some of my girlfriends don't know this trick. They were telling me how avocados is by far the most frustrating thing that they buy at the supermarket, because they bring it home and they leave it out on the counter, and of course when you buy them, most of them are like that deep green, and then next thing you know, they've over ripened, and then they get mushy with those little hairs inside, and they toss them in the garbage. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's so easy. So they were so surprised when I showed them how easy it is. Anyway, this one is just about ready. I hope that the camera can get the actual color of it, but it's brown. So these avocados have been sitting in that basket for about 4 days. And the way that you actually know if they're ready is if they have a little bit of a give when you press on them lightly. And this one, even though it's brown, for the most part, it's actually not ready. It's still a little too firm. And I know a lot of you have heard that trick, that if you take your finger and you put it over the little stub here and it falls off, it's ready. Yeah, but this one, for example, was checked at the supermarket. So it never came home with that little stub. But if you just give it a little bit of a press and it's not ready, you don't feel your thumb go in at all, then it's definitely not. Now, how do I get it to ripen? Well, it's in the bag. Cheesy joke number 1. Let me show you. All you need is a paper bag. I told you it was a cheesy joke. Now, if you put the avocado in the bag, and you seal it, and you might want to put a little clip on it, but you don't have to. It'll ripen a lot quicker. But do you want it to get to ripen the next day? Well, that's easy. All you need is an apple. I've also seen it work with a banana, but the problem is that the banana also gets too soft, and now you've thrown away a banana. But an apple is perfect, because just like with the bananas, apples also release ethylene gas, which is what the avocado needs in order to ripen. So all you have to do is leave it sealed up in your counter just for a day, and when you check on it the next day, that avocado should be just right. If you put it in there green, it might need an extra day, but I've never seen an avocado need more than 2 days in a bag with an apple. But now what happens if it's the opposite? If you come home and your avocados are just brown and they're perfect and they have a little bit of that give, but you're not ready to cook with them. So what do? That's simple too. Let me show you. You simply take the avocado and you put it in your produce drawer, and there it'll last for at least a week, and it'll stay just as ripe as it was the day you put it in there. Now, one of my favorite vegetables has to be asparagus. So I like to buy the stalks that are medium to thin, but then those are the first ones that go a little flimsy and the top gets a little damp, and then you're like, do I really want to cook with this? Do I have to chop off the tops, which are the best part if you ask me? So I found a great way to extend the life out of them, and they've lasted in my fridge for up to 2 weeks. Let me show you. Take any cup or container, or of course in my case I use candle holder because I love to recycle, and you fill it 1/3 of the way with cold water. Next, after rinsing the celery and then drying it, you want to line it up and then cut about 1 inch off from the bottom. Now take the celery and with the cut ends down, place them in the glass. And into the fridge it goes, and I like to keep it on the shelf by the door so it stays away from everything and it'll stay nice and crisp. Now when it comes to cucumbers, what I like to do is, if it's not an organic one, is I peel some of the peel off, kind of make them striped, and then cut them into fourths and then chop them up and have them ready in a container in the fridge for a salad in a snack. But what happens if you didn't get a chance to do that and they've been sitting in your fridge for, let's say, a week? Let me show you. Now, you know I'm all about saving money and saving food because you don't want to let anything go to waste. And in my fridge, I have these 3 cucumbers that have a little bit of a dent in it right here and here. So you know they're not going to last that long. So what do I do with them when I know I'm not going to get to them in time? I'm going to pickle them. And of course, I'm going to use my recyclable salsa jar because nothing goes to waste, and that way I don't have to buy extra Tupperware. So first, I've already scrubbed them because they're not organic, so I want to make sure that the skin is as clean as possible. I'm going to cut off the ends, and now I'm going to slice them really thin. And look how thin I'm cutting them. Next, I'm going to take my jar and I'm going to fill it a little bit more than halfway, probably 2/3 of the way, with water. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, but you can use any vinegar you have on hand. I just have a lot of this. And now I'm going to add some minced garlic. If you don't have it in the jar, it's not a problem. You can mince regular garlic as well, but because I have it in the fridge, I'm just going to use this. And I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon. And I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. It's better if you have peppercorns, but I don't have any. And last but not least, I'm going to add the cucumbers. And I'm already missing some because Emily is snacking while I'm putting them in here. And now just give it a shake. And there you go. In a few days, you're gonna have homemade pickles. And look how great these are. Don't they look delicious? And now that I've pickled them, they can stay in the fridge for months. But honestly, they are so yummy that they do not last that long in my fridge. Now, when it comes to herbs like cilantro and parsley, which are my favorite, they want to be kept like plants. So what I do is, as soon as I get home from the supermarket, is I take these jars and I cut the ends off of the herbs. I fill it halfway with cold water, and then I put them in there and I cover them in the same bag that they came in, just over the top, to create like a greenhouse effect. And then I keep them in the fridge, and they can last for weeks, and it'll be just as green and vibrant as they were when you got them from the supermarket. And if you have some herbs and you don't have any recipes that calls for them, but you don't want them to go bad, one trick is to take an ice cube tray and put the herbs in them, and then fill the ice cube trays with whatever oil you cook with. In my case, it's olive oil. And you're making little ice cube trays of olive oil that's been infused with that herb. And then whatever recipe calls for that herb, you put the ice cubes in there, and you're adding a lot of flavor and extending the life out of that herb. Meanwhile, it's been sitting in your freezer for who knows how long. Now let's talk about nuts and seeds. Now my husband, he loves his almonds. He loves the unsalted roasted ones, and I love chia seeds. So I don't take those items and put them in my cupboard because they're gonna go bad. What you wanna do is you wanna get yourself an airtight seal container like this one. And I have my chia seeds, and that's why chia seeds and other seeds come with a zip bag, because they really want to try to extend the life out of them on the shelves. But once you get it home and you open it up, now it's been exposed to air. So you want to put it in an airtight seal container and label it and keep it in the fridge. But now let's say that you were given a gift of whatever nuts or seeds it is, and you know you're not going to use them anytime soon. Or what if you bought it in bulk and you know you're only going to use a little bit of it, but you know that even if you put the whole thing in the fridge, it's going to go bad. What you want to do then is keep whatever you're going to use, if any, and the rest you put it in a freezer bag and you make sure to label it and keep it in the freezer. And nuts and seeds can stay fresh in the freezer for months, because what you're doing is you're taking the oil that's in the nuts and seeds and you're freezing it, and that way you're avoiding it from going rancid. Now I'm going to talk about my husband's favorite, celery. Have you ever gone into the fridge and there's only 1 or 2 stalks left and they're flimsy and you're like, what am I gonna do with that? Well, I put it in a soup because I don't throw anything out. But I'm gonna show you a way that you can have your celery last for weeks in the fridge and it'll stay crispy and delicious. Take the celery out of the bag and you want to cut the roots off because you want to have each stalk be separated, and this is the best way to do it. And of course, do I throw those roots out? No, I don't. I'm gonna keep them in my stock bag so that I can make some vegetable stock later on. But you see how the stalks have a little bit of dirt right there? So what you wanna do is you wanna separate them and then give them a really good rinse and make sure that you pat them dry as much as you possibly can. And now take some aluminum foil and wrap the celery as tightly as possible and keep that in the refrigerator. Anytime that you need a piece, you open it up, take what you need, and wrap the rest of it tightly and put it back in the fridge. And this will keep your celery crispy and delicious. And my last item that I want to talk about is the dreaded can of tomato paste. Now, how many times have you seen a recipe that says 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons or even a teaspoon of tomato paste? And if you buy the can, which is a lot less expensive than buying that tube that you just squeeze whatever you need out of and then put it back in the fridge, those things are at least $2.75 around here. And I've seen the gourmet ones of those be like $5. Meanwhile, this was 65 cents. So what do you do with the rest of this? Let me show you. I took the last can that I had of tomato paste and I used what I needed in my recipe, and then I took the rest and I put it in this freezer bag and I made sure to label it, and then I laid it flat and squeezed it and squeezed all the air out of it. And then I took a butter knife and I created these checkers. And then now whenever I need tomato paste, all I have to do is break off whatever piece I need and put it in the recipe and then take the air out of the bag again. And what do? I put it back in the freezer. How awesome is that? And now I want to hear from you. What grocery item do you want to tip on how to extend the life out of it? Please let me know in the comment section down below. And if you're looking for bonus tips on how to store things in your freezer, I have 3 videos on those and I'll link them at the end. Well, I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. If you did, please click the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and to click on that bell. And also follow me on Instagram at the address above. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.